If you are looking at buying or selling a home in Leduc in April or May, then this video is for you because I'm going to be doing a deep dive on exactly what's happening in the Leduc real estate market, looking at the most recent statistics that are available from the Realtors Association of Edmonton. So let's jump right in. Okay, so in this video, we'll look at three different segments of the market. We'll look at the market as a whole to start with, then we'll look just at single family homes and then condos, because it's a different picture depending on if you're looking at the whole picture or different segments of the market, and it gives you a different idea depending on whether you're looking at single family homes or condos. So let's jump right in here. If you looked at my video last month, this should look familiar. If you want to get a copy of this report, I put a link in the description. You can download this report for yourself. Now, if we're looking at the market as a whole, the average price at the end of March was $387,711, which is actually down 3.58% from February, but up 4.74% from March of last year. Now, this is the 13-month history over here on the right, and you can see that there's lots of ups and downs each month, which makes it look like the prices are very unstable in Leduc. And the reason it looks like that is because you're looking at a pretty small market, so there's not a lot of sales volume. So every individual sale can start to affect the average price quite a bit. So if you've got a bunch of expensive stuff selling, that'll prop up the average price. Or if you have a bunch of cheap stuff selling, then that'll lower it. And that's basically what makes it so inconsistent, because there's not enough sales volume for it to be a more stable number. So I would take this number with a huge grain of salt. It's not that properties went down 3.5% in the last month, it's just because of what's selling, essentially. Now, if we look at the price trend, now this is looking at a yearly number. This is going to be more stable because you've got more sales volume in there to make it so that each individual sale is not enough to increase the average price or decrease the average price if it's a cheaper property. So if you look at 2020 is when we first started going up in Leduc, we were up 4.2%. In 2021, we were up 5.12%. And then in 2022 so far, we're up 6.24%. So that's got the first 3 months of the year so far. So it's definitely looking like a strong year for Leduc based on what's happening with the average prices. Now, if you compare that to Edmonton, you can see that Edmonton in 2020 barely went up almost 1%. And 2021, it was up 6.25%. And then so far it's up 4.86%. So last year, Edmonton outperformed Leduc in terms of its average price gains. But it's underperforming compared to Leduc so far in 2022. Now, if we get into actually active and sold listings, at the end of March, we had 83 active listings in all of Leduc and 79 sales. So those numbers are pretty dang close to each other. And you can see that the number of active listings is down 6.41% compared to last month and down 47.8% compared to last year. So a lot less inventory than we had this time last year. And this is one of the things that's interesting is the number of sales at 79 is actually down 3.66% from last month and down 15.96% from last year. And considering the market's so hot, why are sales volume down? Well, it's basically because we don't have enough inventory. At some point, if you've got so little inventory and so much demand to buy those properties, you've essentially got more demand than you have inventory, and that is going to start reducing the number of sales that can happen. Similar thing where you can only sell so much toilet paper if you don't have it in stock. Once there's not enough of an item in stock, it starts to actually hurt your sales volume. So that's why I think the sales volume is lower compared to last year and last month. And if you look at the 13-month history here, that green bar is basically the gap between the number of sales that are happening on a monthly basis compared to how much is currently active on the market. So last year in March, it was still pretty hot when we had 94 sales and 159 active listings. And then it did slow down a little bit for the rest of the year, but it really ramped up in February when we had 82 sales. And now we've got 79 sales, but there's like no room there. There's not enough inventory to essentially support a higher sales volume because there's no room left in the market. So hopefully that sort of makes sense. I don't think that a slightly lower sales volume is because that the market's slowing down or anything. I think it's just an inventory problem right now. Now, if we look at the absorption rate, we're at 95.18%. This is related to what we just talked about. Basically, 95% of our active listings are being sold in the last 30 days. So that's how come there's very little room in the market. If you compare that to last year, you can see this bar basically follows the same as the one above, except just putting it into percentages. So we're at 95% right now. Last month we were at 105%. If you watched my last video, you saw that we were at over 100% absorption rate. How does that happen? It basically happens if you've got more sales than you've got active listings in the last month. So if we look at the average days on market, 43 average days on market for March, which is down. So homes are still selling a little bit faster, 2.27% compared to last month, and about 10.42% compared to last year. And you can see the 13-month history here. We hit a low last year in April with 31 days, so we'll see how that plays out this year. Hopefully we'll have more inventory coming on so that there's a little bit more breathing room. I'm sure there's a lot of people looking to buy stuff in Leduc right now that just don't have enough properties that they can get their hands on, that they're not fighting over with other people. So that's the market as a whole. But what about just the single family home market? Well, before we get into that, I do want to let you know that this is great for an overall picture of what's happening in Leduc, but I can help you a lot more specifically if you reach out to me and let me know, what price point are you looking at, what neighborhoods and what types of properties, and I can give you even more specific advice on what I see happening in those specific markets. So I'd encourage you to reach out to me at 780-819-5508. Either text me or call me, or email me at trevor@trevortardif.com, or go to booktrevornow.com, select a time on my calendar, and then I will call you and we can discuss a few different strategies that'll be unique to your situation, whether you're buying or selling a home. Anyways, so let's jump further into the report here. So we'll look just at single family homes real quick. Single family homes, the average price in March in Leduc was $401,503, which again is technically down 3% from last month. It's the same story here though, that you're gonna get lots of fluctuations just because there's not enough sales volume. So far we're up 5.2% for the year for single family, and we were up 6% last year. So if we compare that to Edmonton in single family, Edmonton is on a price gain basis is slightly outperforming Leduc right now, and it did by 1% last year as well. Now, if we look at the actives and solds, you can see that just based on the numbers we were looking at before, so there were 64 active single family homes, but if we looked at it for the total residential, there was 83. So that tells you that the majority of the market in Leduc is single family properties. So that'll make the condo numbers really skewed because there's hardly anything going on in condos. So again, 64 actives, 73 sold, so that's over 100% absorption rate. The number of active listings is up a little bit from last month, but still down 51% from last year. And our sales volume, like I said, is down a little bit from last month and down a little bit more from last year. Again, just constrained by the lack of inventory, essentially. Now, that puts us at 114% absorption rate for single family properties in Leduc. So obviously there's tons of demand there. We need to get more inventory to be able to support that and to stop putting upward pressure on prices. For single family homes, the average days on market was 43, pretty much. I think that might have been what it was for the market as a whole, which is a little bit faster than last month and a little bit slower than last year. Now, if we just hop over to condominiums real quick, the average price of condos sold in Leduc in March was $219,916. It's technically up from last month by 1.16%, and so far condos are up 5.55% for the year in Leduc. Last year we also had a pretty decent gain of 11.17%. If we compare that to Edmonton, it looks a lot better than Edmonton from an average price gain perspective. Now, if we look at the actives and solds, you can see that the market is a lot more balanced here for condos. Even though we're talking about very small numbers, there's a lot more breathing room here. So you're not going to see the same kind of upward pressure on condo prices in Leduc like you are on single family homes. So the number of active listings is actually up 18% from last month, but it's still down a little bit from last year, about 27%. And the sales volume is actually up for condos, up 20% from last month, but down about 33% from last year. So it's pretty similar to where we were at last year for the condo market in Leduc, just a little bit less inventory essentially. So we're looking at an absorption rate of 31.58% for your condos in Leduc. Okay, This just shows the 13-month history, and you can see that the average days on market was 41 for Leduc as well. So that about wraps it up for the Leduc real estate market update for April, looking at last month's statistics. I hope this was valuable to you. If you got value out of this video, you can check out this playlist to look at some other videos about market updates, or you can just subscribe over here to make sure that you never miss another video. Thanks so much for watching.